Hello, my fellow Viragos. It's me, LT. How's it going? Everything is going. Everything over here is going. That's all I can say. I did take a nice little vacay to Puerto Rico, and I'll let you know all about that. But before we get into it, I'm here by myself, party of one. And I am happy to say that this is Virago's 100th episode. Episode 100. Cue the confetti, cue the horns, cue the music, cue all the things. Very exciting. Episode 100. And I'm here celebrating alone. Actually, I'm not alone. I'm with you guys. So very exciting. I'm very proud of Virago, and even with me not recording consistently like I did the first year, the first 2 years I was pretty consistent with my weekly podcast. It's kind of been sporadic the past 2 years, and I was so hard on myself a lot of the times. And then I realized, we're just doing this for fun. We're conversing for fun. And when I realized we made it to 100 episodes, I'm like, you know what? That's better than most podcasts, right? That's better than most that start and end quickly. So proud of Virago. But yes, Puerto Rico. Went to Puerto Rico for spring break. It was a wonderful visit. It was me and Philip and the 3 kids and my mom and my stepdad and Brianna, who's been on the show, and her oldest. And I got to see my aunt, who I haven't seen in years, which is my mom's sister, and one of my cousins. So it was just a really good trip. We stayed on part of the island that we're not from. It's the west side of the island, which is a lot quieter. I'm from the north part, the San Juan area, and where there's a lot of hustle and bustle. Where we stayed, it was very quiet, very country. It was lovely, and I needed it for my soul. It's one of those things that we hear about, like, seasonal depression or seasonal sadness. And I really believe that to be true. I feel like after the holidays, January, February, I get into this, like, I don't know if for me personally, I wouldn't say depression, but, you kind of get into internal, and I start thinking about what I want for the year and start, I try not to dwell too much on the things that I wanted to do the years past, but I'm human, so that creeps in. So I've been kind of in my head, in my own little world the past few months. And so going to Puerto Rico was like a refresher, a reminder of, like, this is where I've come from and this is where I am, and just seeing how far I've come. And it really puts a lot of things in perspective of, no, my life is good. Yes, I can go inward and internalize a few things and start planning for this year. And I guess it's just my pattern is I start thinking too deeply into things, and I have to realize what I have, where I've come from. And so that's what Puerto Rico did. It was lovely, lovely, lovely. So I want to talk about where we left off. So I know the last episode we did mention that we wanted Shiny to come on, and she was going to talk to us about some things that she hasn't spoken about on the podcast. And her and I actually did record. It's hard to get the 3 of us together, me, Brianna, and Shiny, because we have lives, we all have kids, we work, and so it's hard to come together to record. And so we've had a lot of we've wanted to come together, and we write it down on the calendar, and then things come up and it just doesn't happen. So Shiny and I did record, but honestly, I'm not going to air it. I'm not going to air that episode. You can tell she didn't feel quite comfortable speaking her truth, and that's okay. So this is not coming down on her. I always want to respect people's wishes. I think she would have been okay with me releasing it, but the fact that she was second guessing certain things, it is what it is. And we're just in all different stages in our journeys and our growth. And Some of us are just hesitant to speak up and to tell our story, or, we want to edit it so that we don't make others look bad. And so that's really what it is that we don't want, especially the one, us that care and that have a heart. We don't want people to look bad. For me, I feel like coming on this podcast and starting this and speaking my mind and my truth and my life, it's been therapeutic for me. I've not saying that everyone needs to come on a podcast and share their truth and speak about their lives, because really, when you think about it, our lives involve other people. And I think that's where people are hesitant to come on and speak. But even aside from the podcast, there's some of us that don't even want to say it to not even one person, and for me, I've been able to let go of so much from my past. I've been able to forgive. I've been able to ask for forgiveness. I've been able to just release a lot of things that I was holding on to. And for me, it's been therapeutic. But like I said, not everyone needs to come on a podcast to speak their story. But there's definitely something to not being afraid to share about our lives. And even if it's just to one person, even if it's just to your closest friend, saying things out loud, it takes the control away from those who are a part of our story or were a part of our story. So many of us, just want to keep things quiet because we're afraid to hurt those who have hurt us or who have had a negative impact on our lives. And when I think about it, it just sounds so insane that we're afraid that by speaking on things that have happened to us by those who wronged us, that we would turn around and make those people feel bad, by saying this is what happened to me. And so to me, that just shows what a great heart you have, that you still care for those who have had a negative impact on you. But also on the flip side, here you are suffering because you're keeping their secrets and holding on to their baggage. And for me, they still have the control. The fact that you're afraid shows that they have that control. I've come on here and I've spoken on a lot of things, and not everybody has liked what I've had to say. And I've said it before that I haven't even said everything that or told stories that I wanted to say, because you don't want to hurt people's feelings, but also you want to be honest with, this is my life and this is how these people impacted me. And I've even come on here and I've told you guys about my struggles with Kaylin, my oldest. And, there have been times that she's said things that had truth to them and some that didn't. And the things that had truth to them, I had to put my ego aside and look in a mirror and acknowledge that, there are things that I could have done differently. And I've apologized for things that I did that I didn't know I was doing at the time. But now that I do know, I can do better and I can be better, And for the things that had no truth to them, I again had to put my ego aside and realize that what she was saying was coming from a place of hurt and that I couldn't take it personally. And within that, that's not easy to do because you want to set the record straight. And trust me, there was times where I'm like, no, that's not how it happened. But a lot of times I just had to pray that she would come to realize that that the things that she was saying were out of pain and that she was meshing some of the truth with, some of the hurt that she was feeling. And I feel like I've grown as a person, because I don't know if, 10 years ago that I would have handled it this way. Maybe I would have taken it more personally and let my ego make things worse by guilting her or belittling her or accusing her. And like I said, I've had moments where, I felt like I had to defend myself. And my prayers the past few years have been to speak my mind, to speak on things that have happened, but from a place of, a controlled way of speaking, controlled, not emotional. And the times that I have come out of that, and I feel like I've overstepped, I've had to apologize, and I will apologize. But all this to say that Kaylin has a right to speak her truth about things that affected her, whether I like it or not. And I have the right to speak my truth, even if it hurts or has hurt the people that have affected my life. And you also have the right to speak your truth, even if it offends those that are a part of your story, right? So what stops us from speaking up? And the only word that comes to my mind is fear. Fear of being guilt, feeling guilty, fear of rejection, fear of retaliation, fear of any backlash that those who are a part of our story, that they would exhibit any of these things. And what I've learned, and what I feel like we all have to understand, is that we're all human. We're all flawed. Of course, we aren't going to handle all relationships with perfection. We do our best, but we're always going to fall short. And along this healing journey, I do give those people grace. Once you come out of that cycle of blaming and accusing and guilting and all these things in this cycle, once you get yourself out of that, you can look at people with grace and understanding of they did what they could with what they were given. Where I have issues with is if I don't see someone growing, this is just who I am and take me or leave me. That's where I have issues with people, is not seeing that growth, but understanding that as well, so that when people are, accusing me of how I've been in their life, of course with my kids, I'm sure other things will come up with my two other ones, and knowing to accept it and to learn from it and to be better from it. And those that we can't control, that aren't mature enough to be on that same path, there's really nothing we can do about it. We can't control them. There's really, like I said, there's really nothing that we can do about those people. But for some reason, we're still stuck, even if we see it, big picture. We see that they're in the wrong, or we see that they're not holding themselves accountable, but yet we just want to keep these secrets and keep their stories so that we don't reap the aftermath, the explosion that will come from those people. I'm talking about this because, it just opened my eyes that not everyone's ready. And like I said, I love Shiny. And I respect that she's not ready to speak her full truth in her journey that she's been on since she was little. And hopefully one day we'll get to hear that. But with wanting to talk about this, I was on Instagram, just, we just scrolled through Instagram, and I came upon this post. I don't even follow this person, don't know anything about them, But I was like, I was reading and I was like, this actually pertains to like this message that was put on my heart. And it's at Chris Durso. So I Googled him. He appears to be a pastor somewhere. I didn't really go deep into it, but I was like, okay, that makes sense, because a lot of what he was, it's like different slides, it's like 20 slides. I'm going to read them to you. The ones that I was feeling. And so he threw some biblical stuff in there. I'm not going to read all of it, but before I read what he posted, and I feel like, it spoke to me. I just want to preface, for the people that are not on a healing journey. And we all know if we're on a healing journey or if that's not even on our radar, deep down we know. So for those that are not on a healing journey, this is not going to speak to you. And if you're not on a healing journey, this message, hear me loud and clear. It does not give you permission to spew hate and call it your truth, or spin the truth to fit your narrative and claim it as your story. Because a lot of these messages that we see online, we know, like I said, there's a lot of us that will read it and we feel it, but also we're in protective mode. We're protecting those that have wronged us. But there's others out there that, I'm on this healing journey, but they'll just throw everybody under the bus and not give a shit. So I'm not talking to you guys. And deep down, we all know what category we fall in. So for those who are truly wanting to heal and shed pain and shed hurt and seek forgiveness and be forgiven, this message is for you. And this is what I saw on Instagram. So it says, they sinned against you quietly, but labeled your honesty as gossip. Spiritual manipulation is a sin. Silencing is a sin. Talking about it is not. There's a difference between gossip and truth telling, between slander and grief. Gossip talks about others to wound. Truth shares experience to heal. Gossip seeks attention. Truth seeks resolution. Why is it acceptable to prophesy about the future, but forbidden to speak honestly about the past or the present? God doesn't just redeem the future, he heals the past. You can't heal from what you're not allowed to name. Silence may feel like protection, but often it becomes a prison. What you bury to keep the peace may be burying you. Silencing survivors is not the same as seeking unity. Unity without honesty isn't peace. It's performance. And performance doesn't heal. It hides. The Bible doesn't hide the truth to protect reputations. It names people and their actions. Judas betrayed, Peter denied, David abused, Cain murdered. Not for gossip, but for accountability, justice, and generational clarity. If telling the truth feels like betrayal, you've been groomed to protect dysfunction. Truth is not disloyalty. Truth is light, and light is the beginning of liberation. Therapists will tell you your nervous system cannot release trauma from what your voice is not allowed to reveal. Unspoken pain becomes stored pain. Suppressed truth becomes embodied stress. You don't need a microphone to be honest, but you do need a safe space to be whole. You're not obligated to stay quiet just because the truth makes others uncomfortable. Your story doesn't make you divisive. It makes you honest. And honesty is sacred, even if you're the only one willing to tell the truth. You're not being rebellious. You're being responsible. If telling the truth costs you the relationship, it was built on control, not covenant. Real love doesn't demand silence. It invites growth. This is not about revenge. It's about regulation. Speaking up doesn't make you dramatic. It makes you self-aware. And self-awareness is the beginning of healing. True healing isn't just moving on. It's moving forward with truth, boundaries, and grace. Healing doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means your past no longer controls your present. It's clarity without chaos, peace without pretending, compassion without codependence. Silence may have offered you a sense of safety, but it was counterfeit. It kept you quiet, not healed. It protected their image, not your heart. It gave the illusion of peace, but cost you your voice. You're not hurting them. You're healing you. Healing isn't dishonor. Truth sets you free. It's time to experience freedom. So when I read that, I was like, wow, this is one of the purposes of this podcast was to bring women together and men, but mostly women together to really be vulnerable and speak our truth and not to hurt people, not to bash, but to heal and to grow and to learn and be better and do better. And there are a lot of us that are seeking that. And we have a lot of people in our lives that put those barriers in front of us because they're not on that same journey and they probably never will be on that journey. And I've learned that it's okay if those people aren't, but you're not going to stop me from speaking my truth. And they're not made up truths, they're facts. And the reason that it hurts is because it's the truth, you know? And going back to Kaylin, even the things that I don't believe were true, and they're not true, they might be true in her mind, but take emotions out of it and let's talk about the facts. Even still, I had to take my ego out of it and just be like, okay, this is how she's feeling. I'm not going to take it personal. The truth is the truth. And one day she'll figure it out. And again, the things that were true, yep, that happened. And yes, I'm sorry. And I wish all of us can get to that point in life. It's very hard because nobody wants to look into a mirror. No one wants to be seen as the person that has caused damage in someone else's life. And that's hard. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow. But for me, it's like, I can't be afraid. I can't be in fear. This is part of healing. In order for us to heal, our stories must be told. And if we're somebody that's hurt others, we have to acknowledge it and apologize so that we can help that person heal. And in turn, you're being healed. You know, it starts with accepting and letting go and apologizing. And I think it all goes hand in hand. You know, we're not always the person that needs to forgive. Sometimes we're the ones asking for forgiveness. And that's okay. And it just shows the maturity, the emotional stability that's within you, the emotional growth. And ideally, we would want everyone to be in that place. But again, we can't control those people. So, you know, some of us, we'll never understand how some of us will never understand how therapeutic it is to let it all out. There are those that will never get it, that will never get to a place of understanding. Their egos will forever be in control of their thoughts and their emotions. And, for those of us that are ever learning and ever growing, it can't be our problem. It can't be our problem to carry. You can't control how others will react to what you have to say. And also, you can't fear their reaction. You can't allow their reaction or the fear of it keep us from sharing our stories, because this is what has brought us to this point in our lives, is our story and our testimony. And I am proud to say that I've learned this. It's extremely hard, because if it wasn't, we'd all be doing it. And it's been through just talking to you guys, to my friends outside of podcasting, just letting it out and putting it out on the table, and not just placing blame, but understanding that, yes, this has happened, but how can I move forward, and what can I do differently, and how can I change? Because we can't stay stuck in the blame game, and we can't stay stuck in our past. Speak our story, tell our truth, have people see you and hear you, but also give you words of wisdom. There's been a lot of tough love, and that's why I've been able to let things go. A lot of, well, yeah, that happened, but okay, why are we still crying about it type deal. And it opens your eyes. It doesn't always feel good, but once you're on the other side, it's very freeing. And I just hope that we all get to that place one day. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. This was going to be a quick podcast for my 100th episode, quick and to the point. I can talk about speaking our truth forever and ever and ever. I've done a few shows about speaking our truth. It's something that's very important to me. People make you feel bad for wanting to speak on your own life and things that have happened to you. It just blows my mind every time. Like, this is my life. I'm not speaking about your life. I'm speaking about my life that happened to intertwine with mine. And now I'm the bad guy for speaking up on it. And that should not be the case. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. Your new life is going to cost you your old one. It's going to cost you your comfort zone and your sense of direction. It's going to cost you relationships and friends. It's going to cost you being liked and understood. But it doesn't matter, because the people who are meant for you are going to meet you on the other side. And you're going to build a new comfort zone around the things that actually move you forward. And instead of liked, you're going to be loved. Instead of understood, you're going to be seen. All you're going to lose is what was built for a person you no longer are. Let it go.